great day. Today I am going to be doing kind of a 3-in-1 type review and demo video on the new collection from CoverGirl. It's called Ready Set Gorgeous, including a foundation, a concealer, and a powder. And I know I had mentioned in my haul recently that I saw some new CoverGirl things at CVS. They were like a couple of shadow quads and some lip products, but it wasn't until I went to Walgreens that I found the entire big old spread. So I found this stuff later on, and as well as even more lip products. And while these face products have the Ready Set Gorgeous label on them, I had been reading, I think it was on Allure, they said that, you know, Katy Perry is kind of the spokesperson going along with this new line, and I think they're calling it Instaglam or something Instagram inspired. I get the feeling that the whole idea behind this Ready Set Gorgeous line is oil control. Some of the claims for this foundation are that it keeps shine at bay. I can just tell by the texture of this powder, it's very, very mattifying. The foundation has a matte finish also. And then you've also got this kind of traditional liquidy concealer with a doe foot applicator. So as we go along, you'll see these products being applied, but I'm going to start off with the foundation, and I got this in shade 210, and that is called Medium Beige. And this line kind of seems to be set up with a number system. I noticed that there was like a range of numbers for the powders to help you better choose your powder color, but I did find that those seem to run a little bit dark. So while I'm 210 in the foundation, and that's probably a pretty good match for me, I'm only 115 light in the powder that goes along with it. So just something to double check for. The way these are packaged, you can pop them open and actually see what kind of color you're dealing with in there. This foundation is a very liquidy consistency, just squeezes right out of the tube, which I do like that format, and I just kind of like to patch it all over my skin where I know I'm going to put it, and then I pulled in my Sigma F80 to further blend it out. And I feel like this has medium coverage and definitely a matte finish. It's not going to conceal every last little problem that you have on your face, but something about the matte finish of it, I think, makes the coverage seem even better. Now, this says oil-free, won't clog pores, suitable for sensitive skin, and lasts all day. However, I don't believe there's any sunscreen in this product. After initially putting this on, I feel like the finish of my skin looks pretty good. You know, skin tone overall definitely evened out. You know, you might have some redness or some circles here and there that you want to add some concealer to, but for the purposes of being a foundation, I thought this was pretty good. I could see if you're dealing with dry patches and dryness, I mean, this is the kind of foundation that's going to kind of exaggerate that a little bit because it's not adding a lot of moisture and it's very matte. So definitely something more for, I think, the normal, combo, or really oily skin types there. Then I went in with my concealer, and this I have in the shade Light, and this is just a very traditional concealer type format. I feel like CoverGirl used to have something called Invisible Concealer, or maybe they still do. I think that was one of the first concealers I ever used, and this kind of reminds me of that. So I applied this around my under eye area, and because this is a little lighter shade than my foundation, I use this for some highlighting as well. It's a very liquidy consistency, so it blends into the skin and you feel like you can kind of layer it on top of your foundation without it looking too heavy. So I just blended that out with my Sigma P84 brush. I think I just see this as a little bit more of a brightener than a really heavy coverage concealer. Something I've really noticed over time is that if you've got dark spots or dark circles, it really helps to use a peachy tone concealer on top of those areas, because it not only like covers them up, but it really camouflages them. And sometimes when you're just using a skin tone concealer on problems like that, it might lighten them or make them a little less obvious, but it doesn't do quite as well for helping them disappear. So just something to think about there. I don't see this concealer as a total like must-have, amazing, incredibly different concealer from a lot of things that are on the market now. If you do want a really good coverage, like amazing coverage, liquidy consistency concealer from the drugstore, I would check out the Hard Candy Glamouflage in the squeezy tube. That's really good. The powder is also called Ready Set Gorgeous Fresh Complexion. I have it in 115 light, and you are getting a mirror in here. There's your moisture powder and also a sponge. I have applied this with the sponge, but I find it gives me a lot heavier application of the powder than I want. For a touch-up, you know, you could try to be really careful with it and kind of blot it around, but I feel like I just get too much on. And for this powder being as matte as it is, when you get too much on, it's pretty noticeable. The texture of this isn't maybe as smooth and rich feeling as some other drugstore powders that I've really come to enjoy, like the L'Oreal True Match Pressed Powder. That's just a really great one. And I feel like when I put that on my skin, I don't look too dry. When I put this on, it does add some coverage on top of that foundation. So foundation, concealer, and this, I think you kind of end up with a pretty full coverage look, really, and a very matte look as well. I like applying this best with a brush, but again, you just kind of got to be careful with it because it can look a little more visible on your skin. But using this powder, I do think really helps the staying power of the foundation. I've worn the foundation just as is to try to determine how well the staying power is just with this, and it's pretty good, but it's even better with this on top. So setting it, I mean, no real surprise there. That's the way a lot of foundations perform best, especially if you're kind of oily, is with that powder on top. Now, speaking of staying power and how well this worked throughout the course of a day, I really tested this under some semi-extreme circumstances. I was doing some gardening outside, planting a flower bed. It was hot. I was sweating, definitely. And I was really surprised to look at myself in the mirror and see that this hadn't broken down all that much. And then on an average day when I'm not, you know, out in the sun sweating my head off, this really lasted well. But there have been times, and I won't say I've noticed this to a major extent, like every time I've worn this, but I'll look at my face late in the day. I'll feel like I can see more pores maybe around my cheeks, and just like I'm seeing the makeup more than I want to. Does that make sense? And I feel like my skin is at a really normal skin type kind of place right now. It's not incredibly oily. It's not very dry right now either. While this little trio of products seems to wear a long time, I don't necessarily love the look that I'm getting as the day goes on. A foundation that I love from CoverGirl that would really be well suited to oily combo skin types is the Outlast Stay Fabulous. I mean, this is a great foundation, and it kind of reminds me of this one coverage-wise, only I find this to be a little more buildable. In other words, if you first applied it and then you're thought, oh, there are a few more areas where I want to build up the coverage, I feel like this can be built up more and not look like too much, whereas this one doesn't necessarily build on itself as well. It looks a little more obvious. Staying power with this is just awesome. I've always been impressed by that. I just feel like I like the look of it, the finish of it on the skin a little bit better than this one. This one also contains SPF 20, so I think if you're kind of in a toss-up of, you know, a good oil control foundation to try from the drugstore, this one's just really great. This has good coverage, good staying power, good appearance on the skin, even as the day wears on. So in my book, this one beats this one. Concealer, kind of a take it or leave it type thing. If you just got some minor issues and you wanted to try this, or you just wanted to do some brightening, this could do the job. But for major imperfections, I think you may want to look into something a little more heavy duty coverage or something more corrective. If you've got, like I said, those dark circles and dark spots, a peach concealer works really great on those areas. If you're looking for a great mattifying powder, this is pretty good, but like I said, it's easy to go too heavy with this, especially if you're using that sponge that's included. And a lot of the reason why someone wants a nice little handy compact is to take it on the go and just be able to grab whatever's sitting in there and dab it on your face. And another one that comes with a sponge is the L'Oreal True Match, like I mentioned, but the texture of that powder is more fine. It just doesn't go on my skin looking as cakey, I guess, as this one can tend to look. While I don't think this is a bad trio of products, and I think for oily skin you will notice pretty good staying power with them, and all of these things combined, you know, pretty good coverage with it as well. I would call it full coverage. But there are still, I think, individual products throughout the drugstore that can do even better. But I am pleasantly surprised by how well this lasted on my skin, putting it through some pretty, you know, tricky circumstances. prices. When you're buying products that are geared toward that anti-shine kind of thing, you are gonna have a tendency of looking a little more dry, especially if like that's not really your skin type and you are a little more dry anyway. This is not dry skin stuff, so just be aware of that. Thanks to everyone who gave me a heads up about where they were finding this stuff. I really appreciate that, and have a great day. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.